Welcome to the TAUS New Year's webinar. Little reception here with if everybody joins, we'll have close to 300 people in the room. So great to have you here and to talk about the localization themes 2025. And we'll do that together with CSA Research. Thank you. The speakers here, Alison Toon, Senior Analyst at CSA Research, Annemai van der Meer, who's heading up Sales and Marketing at TAUS, and Amir Kamran, who's our architect, solution architect, and myself, for this time, the moderator hosting this session. Before we offer the microphone to Alison as the first speaker, let me just frame this webinar a little bit. Because as most of you have perhaps noticed, we've made some noise about it. TAUS is celebrating 20 years of, 20 years in this industry. Translation out of the wall, exactly 20 years ago, January 2005, I think we launched this motto, this kind of slogan. It was a vision at the time, bringing translation to every citizen on the planet, like electricity or the internet, if you like, a utility, so easy. It was a dream, a vision at the time, and look, 20 years later, we make it happen. The vision come true, right? We're excited. We took, translation from a service to a technology to an infrastructure. You just set it up and you find yourself in a completely new kind of business or economic model, if you like. We're moving from variable cost to kind of a fixed infrastructure cost to what economists would call a near zero marginal cost. From the human in the loop to the human at the core, as CSA would call it. And we're excited because we didn't know that exactly 20 years ago, but how quickly AI would, come into our lives, of course. But now there is this kind of very interesting convergence happening between AI industry and the language industry. AI cannot do without language. Language is at the core of AI. Language is the carrier of human knowledge. So that's not for... that's why they call it large language models or small language models. It's always about language. So this is the interesting, most people now here today in the audience are from the language industry, and that's also where the TAUS roots are in the translation, localization, language industry. We're excited about this convergence with AI. So with that, again, we introduced the speakers already, but we'd like to start with a very broad view of all the themes that CSA Research see happening this coming year. It's confusing, it's overwhelming. So to get sort of a kind of an overview will help all of us getting a better picture of what's on our roadmap or what we could focus on. But we then would like to zoom in on what we at TAUS really consider to be the low-hanging fruit. Where can we put our teeth in? What can we do really hands-on? And the agenda, as far as we're concerned, is focus on post-MT production. What can we do? Because everybody is already using machine translation to the max. And it has helped us reduce costs by 50% overall, because post-editing is simply 50% cheaper, right? But we're still looking at all the content, all the output from the engines. What can we do to make that even more efficient? And so that's what we will talk about. And the other topic that we really want to zoom into is the data, the language data. Again, that's where the convergence with AI makes total sense, because this industry, our industry, is sitting on a wealth of data that's not fully utilized yet. And that's where we can bring a lot of value to this emerging new ecosystem. So what can we do to optimize our data to make it really useful? No further introduction needed. Let's turn to you, Alison, and get CSA view of the bigger picture, please.
Thank you. And Hello, everyone. So, we at CSA Research have recently published our 10 trends for the localization industry in 2025. And of course, you've got AI everywhere. As you said, yeah, it's in there, it's everywhere, it's enabling everything. I will just pull out a few of those trends. Um, and connect it to what we're going to be talking about in a moment. But one of them is around accessibility and the user experience. And I'd just like to say, I mean, what makes things accessible in a way like language does? Language is absolutely essential in making things accessible. But we see more and more of a convergence in the management of accessibility and localization in large enterprises because there is synergy across those functions. Different skill sets, but a lot of synergy. Another one of the trends that we've written about in the report is agents or agentic AI, or rather the ability to take small portions of the work and have an AI agent deal with it. It doesn't have to be part of a monolithic system like a monolithic TMS, but it's something that can really help things move along. Uh, Another theme is ROI, being able to prove the value of whatever process or tool or language that somebody's implementing. That is something that's going to be even more and more essential in this coming year. We also talk about the theme of risk management. And what we are seeing is that more organizations are considering risk in relation to translation rather than just counting errors. So they're looking at a broader picture, which content types have a risk if there's an error in it or if something is wrong, and which content types and languages are less prone to causing problems. So managing language is a risk exercise. This is another one of the themes. And then one of the major technological themes for this year we point out is automated quality estimation and automated post editing. And it's something that people have been talking about a lot. There have been stories about it, being absolutely fantastic and being able to fix everything. We've been doing quite a bit of some research into the area to identify what's real, what are best practices, what can people expect, and looking at the various options that are out there on the market right now. So
Yeah.
those are some of the themes, and the report is available just through registration for those themes reports from our website.
All right. Yeah. Fantastic. So yeah, we landed then on the topic that we wanted to elaborate on a bit more here in this webinar because we think we posted this on LinkedIn as well, that this is our prediction for 2025, that quality estimation will really find its way to many operators in this industry. It's a fast way of scaling up. I think CSA also shared that kind of insight that the whole translation or language industry is currently managing or translating only a fraction of all the content that's out there, right? Less than 1%, was it,
Tiny.
Addison?
Oh, it's a teeny tiny it's a teeny tiny fraction of 1% of all of the content that's
Yeah.
currently being produced in the world today. Even if you take out if you take away anything that's not text, you've got this huge amount of written content that's being produced every day. And if you look at how much of that is being translated, it's even by machine translation, let alone
Yeah.
by human translators, it's basically a rounding error on zero.
Yeah.
So there's huge potential, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of content that could be really useful to people if it was available in their own languages.
and that's a huge opportunity. So quality estimation, automatic post-editing are two parts, that we sort of group them together as post-MT production. Post-MT production automation, can help to scale up operations and help customers, help yourself to manage a massive amount of more content, and of course, do that by cost reduction and efficiency improvements. So how does it work? I think, Amir, you're next to kind of explain this a little bit, and then Anamai, you're going to illustrate this with some real world examples, right?
Yeah, thanks, Yap and Allison. So, hi everyone, and greetings for the new year from my side. I hope that the new year is off to a fantastic start for all of you. So, as Yap mentioned, that the two core areas where we are working on, the first one is quality estimation, which is a concept that we have been promoting and refining for the past couple of years. We already have positive results and real world case studies to back it up. And the second is to look at where we are moving towards in the future, building on top of the QE and take things to the next level. So let's start with QE. This is something we have talked about a lot in past few events and in webinars, and this is all about how we can work smarter in the translation workflow. So the big question that quality estimation answers is, do we need to review every translation that is coming out of machine translation? Do we need human touch for everything? And the answer is no, because we know from the data and from benchmarking of MT that quality is improving, and a lot of the time post editors are not really changing anything in the output of the MT. So QE helps us figure out which parts can go straight to the delivery and which actually needs human review. It is like having a super efficient filter that ensures we are focusing human effort where it's really needed. So the impact is really huge. Over 50% of the content does not require post editing in many cases. This means faster turnaround times, significant cost reduction, and post editors can focus their energy where it's actually really needed. So that's where we are today. QE is delivering great results, but what comes next? How can we make things better? That's what the next slide is about. And this is something that we are launching soon. We're looking ahead to what happens after QE. And the answer is to combine it with automatic post editing. It's all about scaling up quality and efficiency together by combining quality estimation and automatic post editing in one service, in one call. So QE identifies what needs to be fixed. And after that, what we can do is we can use AI or large language models to step in and refine the flagged content. So it uses curated and verified customizable prompts with some of the data that we can gather from clients, like terminology and guidelines. And then based on that, we can fine tune the output automatically. The idea is very simple: handle as much as possible with automation or AI, so humans only step in where it's absolutely necessary. So, reducing the cost much more, increasing the efficiency much more. So it helps tackle, bigger volumes without compromising the quality. So this is basically the main idea. So it is designed for anyone in the localization process, whether you are reviewing, validating, or refining translations. Essentially, it's about doing more with less efforts. So to summarize, QE has been a game changer for us over the past couple of years, and the results speaks for themselves. You can read some of the case studies that we have already published. And now, as we combine it with APE and advanced AI, we are building workflows that not only save time and money, but also deliver on the quality side. And I think, Alison, back to you for talk about this report that you have already published.
Okay, yes, we have just published a vendor briefing based on TAUS EPIC, and it's called TAUS EPIC Automation of Post-Empty Production. It talks about what TAUS is doing with QE and with automated QE and automated post-editing, and points out some of the really unique areas that we identified with the TAUS offering. For example, it's not just that it can help to save people money. And I know that's the first thing that comes up when people thinking, we're going to use this, we're going to cut post-editing, we're going to save a lot of money. But also it addresses what we talked about in the risks, because it's a way of reducing the risk of errors. It's also, if you think about the human side of it, for somebody who's doing post editing, it's really, really boring to click on all of those segments that are absolutely correct. So it allows translators to focus where their skills are really, really needed. They're not just button presses, it's the linguistic skills. And yes, and another area that we really noted about the TAUS offering is that you can white label it, in that it will be of benefit to language service providers who are aiming to build more technology into their processes. And then coming soon, we will have another report which goes into greater depth of best practices, where it is wise to implement tools for AQE and APE, and things that people who are considering it should take a look at, including building their own ROI model.
Yeah.
And understanding that ROI is not just about money, it's about the value overall in lots of different areas. And it can be the risk avoidance, it can be making people feel better about their job, it can be time to market.
Validation, verification. I was just reading an article somewhere about, how AI is changing a lot of jobs, but in other areas, like, AI helps to find, recognize in the area of radiology, and it's much better at. But then the job for really specialists in many, many different industries becomes, you said boring, but it becomes a very boring job, because you just need to check AI then with all the education and knowledge that you've gathered, that's weird, but that sort of does not directly apply to the translation industry or to the profession of post editing, if you like, because there you simply reduce the volume of boring work, right? Because we've seen that you see it through the edit distance reports that 50 to 80% of the MT output is not even touched by the editor. So if you can filter that out automatically with a simple AI trained model like quality estimation, then we make the work again more interesting, because the specialist, the linguist, can then zoom in on those parts of the content that do contain problems. Is that would you agree? Is that a right sort of a?
That would be the expectation. And I would love to hear back from some of the linguists in a year or so when they've been using it for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, by the way, to everyone in the audience, please type in your questions. There will be time, I think, at the end of the webinar. So if you already have some experience with quality estimation, we'd like to hear your feedback or any other questions or observations you want to share. Yeah, over to you, maybe, Annemai, to share some real examples.
Yes. Yeah. So we've all heard now about these promises of cost and time savings that QE can bring us. I think if you've been keeping up with the news from TAUS, the latest announcements were even 80% of cost savings. But it's not really achievable if you're kind of lacking the knowledge or not really understanding the QE scores, what they mean, and what you can do with them. So a few weeks ago, I think it was just before the Christmas break, we published this new TAUS report that is meant to give beginners, but I think also more advanced users of QE better understanding of how it can actually make a difference to them or for them. So in this report, we talk about the ranges of QE scores. When can you consider a score to be good enough to send directly to a publication? When does it need a light edit, or when does it require a full review? Of course, there are a lot of factors to keep into consideration when you determine what is a good score for you. So there's a lot of information about that in the report. And we realize also that it's not a magic solution that works for everything, right? There are types of content that it works really well on, but maybe others for which it's less suited. For example, term bases or really creative marketing copy, transcreation. We also talk about that in the report, what type of content is best suited for it. Of course, you also want to know what are the actual benefits of QE. So I think Amir also showed it already in his graphs earlier, but the three main things that quality estimation can bring you is that it requires a lot, or it shows you insights into your post-editing efforts. So you'll find out what actually needs to be reviewed or what can be sent to publication right away. Without the fear of risking critical errors, of course. You can also evaluate your MT system. So if you are consistently getting low scores for certain language pairs or domains, it may mean that you want to switch over to another engine or so all of that is some of the benefits from quality estimation. Then I think the most interesting part for myself actually was those examples of QE scoring in action. We are handling about 10 of them, I think, in the report. So just to give you an insight into how these scores or how any errors in translation are evaluated by our QE model. And it's important to note here that this is the TAUS QE model. So this is not an industry-wide QE model, but it's a TAUS QE model that shows that is trained on all these different types of errors. One is, for example, when there's a small change in word order, or maybe there is a word with multiple meanings that will also affect the quality score. When the translation is using different style, more formal or more informal, when there's a word that is omitted in the translation, there can be even numbers mistranslated. Spelling errors, such as when there's missing accents. So making sure that QE works well for you means also being aware of all these types of errors that are taken into account when by our models and when they influence the score. And of course, it also gives you recommendations on how you can get started with QE. So if you haven't downloaded it, the link is here on the slide. I think it will be very valuable information once you are ready to dive into quality estimation a bit deeper.
Thank you, Annemai. Yeah, before we move on to the next topic in the data optimization, another area where the industry can make a real difference in our vision. Just a couple of, because I think people will probably be asking themselves, and it can be covered in the Q&A at the end. But Amir, maybe you want to already shine some light on this. Does the quality estimation Epic work just out of the box, or do people need to train their own models? Do we need to train custom models for everybody?
Yeah, so as Anamai pointed out, that we have generic models available for a wide variety of domains and for language pairs, which you can use out of the box. And for some of the cases, it works very good out of the box. So you just, you plug and play and it will work. Similarly for automatic post-editing, we have, run significant amount of testing and benchmarking and improve the prompting, how it should work and what we should include and what should we exclude. So we have tested that, and out of the box, it's working for some of the languages very well. But if you want to customize it, or if you are working on a domain that is very specific, or the content which is very particular to your industry or your organization, then it's always better, and it's our recommendation that go for customization. And this is true for any AI. It's not just about quality estimation or translation. AI is trained in a generic way, and to make it work for you, you have to customize it. What we are offering is that we can do the customization for you, because TAUS is a leader in the data for language industry. We have curated a lot of data in the past 20 years, and we are working with that data as well. So we have a lot of experience and a lot of data also on hand to actually do these kind of customization. So what we need from you is some examples of what is your perception of quality, what is the domain that you're working with, or the translation that you have in your organization, the kind of translations that you have. Based on that, we can generate more examples from our data using synthetic methods, and then use all of that to fine-tune models, and that works much better.
Great. And another question is, do we need to consider quality estimation always as part of a TMS implementation, or can it also be used standalone or in a different types of integration? What is your experience or view on that?
Yeah, so the way we implemented it, it's a standalone service, a REST-based API, which you can actually call standalone, or you can implement that or integrate that in any of the platforms. We are also partnering with different TMS systems to try to integrate that in the environment. So MemoQ is one of them, and they have done a very good deep integration of quality estimation. So you can use out of the box if you're using MemoQ. But because the idea is very simple, we try to keep the API very simple as well. You send us sentences, the source sentence and the translated output, and then we provide you the score. And now what you want to do with that score, that's up to you. You can put that score into your workflow, take a business decision on the basis of that, lock some segments, or provide that score to the humans to actually give them some idea if the quality is good or bad, or how much attention they should give to a segment. So all of this is possible. It's up to you how you want to use that. The implementation, the usage is very simple.
All right. Yeah, great. Lots of more questions, I'm sure, and we'll address some later, perhaps. But let's switch to another topic where, in our perspective, the industry, the localization industry, has a lot of value to add, but it requires some work. We call data optimization, and yeah, just as before you talk about that, Alison, from CSA's perspective, I think many of you may have read the articles from and the quotes from some of the heads of the AI labs. They're coming to the end of the data they can easily access. In the world, they've already scraped the whole internet and used all of Wikipedia and anything that they could put their hands on. But the biggest value to make the next innovation jump, the next performance jump of their models, they need to get access to private data, that data that's hidden in companies, in the language industry, we would say. So how can we help? How can this industry, our industry, help to provide good quality data that will give the performance of these models a boost? What is CSA perspective on that? And we're not talking just about low resource languages, right? I mean, that's a big part of it, but it's very specific, company specific knowledge that's in the data. All right.
Yeah, and I think that's a big misunderstanding or a misexpectation of a lot of people. They heard that AI could help with translation, they heard that it could even help with interpreting, and they expect that it will do exactly the same thing in every language, and that is just not the case, because there is not that data. So if you look at this graphic here, shows the number of speakers of each of the languages that participated or that were crawled in that big gathering, the scraping of all the internet. You'll see that English, which is the red segment, is a relatively small proportion of the number of speakers. Now, if we go to the next slide, this will show the actual data that Common Crawl gets, and a huge amount of it is English. It's almost half of the data. Then the European languages, the blue segment, are another big section of it. Chinese and Japanese is small, and the Middle Eastern languages is smaller still. And then you've got 51 languages, the African, Oceanic, and Indigenous American languages, just 0.2% of that Common Crawl.
Yeah.
And it's just not equal. That data is not there. The next slide.
Maybe Alison, we need to explain what Common Crawl is here.
Yeah, it's basically they go out and crawl all over the internet and pull all the data that's public. So it's data that's been made available, whether somebody's published a blog or website, Wikipedia you mentioned, which gets translated, and everything else. But it's publicly available data that has been used to train the large language models, the generic ones.
Yeah.
So this is just another way of looking at it, and it really is exponential in the amount of data. So English, you get the level of ChatGPT-4, and then the next level down, it might be the equivalent of ChatGPT-3, and then it goes lower and lower. And each of these rows of languages is 10 times less. It's exponential. So the Chinese, Dutch, French is 10 times less effective than English, and so on as you go through. Now, when we talk to large enterprises who have been doing translation for a very long time, as long as I've been doing localization, that is a very long time, we know that they have stored up a lot of data, and some organizations translate into 60, 80, 90 languages. So they have data that is relevant to their user experience or their customers, their employees, but they are sitting on a huge amount of data that is not available publicly. So this could be the next phase in providing data to train those large language models to reach further.
Large or small language models.
Small,
yeah, as a layer over the large language models to customize them. What is the TAUS view of this, Amir?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that most organizations, especially considering about localization, they are having this huge amount of legacy data in the form of translation memories. So the first thing that they use is feed this to fine-tune or train engines. Sometimes this actually works very well, but sometimes it backfires because these translation memories, there is not really optimized. They are not really keeping it proper, and there are lots of misalignments and errors are introduced over the period of decades because it's legacy data. So how to use that? Can we use humans to curate that? This is not possible because millions and millions of segments. If you go with humans, that will going to cost a lot. So the technologies that we just talk about, like quality estimation or automatic post editing, that can actually be very helpful here. So last year we launched another service called Optimize, which is to use quality estimation and automatic post editing with some handwritten scripts and rules and tools that can also do some pre and post processing. We can take this TM and then make it ready for optimizing translation models or quality estimation models or any other models that are helpful in localization industry. So what we do is we take all these legacy data we first apply quality estimation, see where the errors are, which segments are good and which segments are not so good, and then see how we can use the data from the enterprise to generate prompts, smart prompts that are not bulky, that are not really consuming LLMs in a way that becomes too expensive or too much time consuming, just the right prompt. And then we can rewrite the sentences and check the quality again. If the quality improves, we can put it back to the TM. And this is the way we can improve the TMs automatically without any human intervention. And then that is the way you can actually feed that data back to the models, and that can then help optimize the workflow.
Yeah, I have just to comment that yes, typically those TMs, those legacy TMs, have not been maintained because it is such a difficult job to do it. If you have to do it manually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We hear that everywhere. And so that's, we think, a huge opportunity, and it can be, it used to be a very big investment. Now with the AI tools, as Amir is saying, it becomes a much more manageable job, highly automated, and it brings your legacy data in the right shape and form to help train your own models. But perhaps there's also an opportunity to monetize some of your data and trade it with other users and operators in our industry. Over to you again, Amir.
Yeah. So TAUS is known for this, buying and selling data or monetized data. So previously, we had this legacy data within TAUS, which was curated translation memories, and that was used by many organizations to train or customize MT engines. Then we have this TAUS HLP platform, which generates human-based data wherever you need any specialized data, annotated data, or any kind of data in low resource languages. Then we have a big network of human workers that can generate that. But as Alison mentioned, and Yap, also you mentioned that the data that is now available for training LLMs or the future of AI, all the data that is available publicly is consumed already. So what is the next step where the data will come from? So what we are doing for the future, and TAUS is very excited to bring that to the market, is that we are working on data that is hidden inside enterprises, and then take that out and license that properly, anonymize that, and make that available for training of LLMs or other AI models. So this is something that we are now working on, and soon we will launch this. Yap, you want to comment?
Yeah, yes, just to elaborate a little bit on this. As some people may remember, we launched the data marketplace about 3 years ago. It was an EU-funded project, and it was completely focused on the segment-based translation memory files. And that was based also on the previous incarnation of the TAUS Data Cloud. And we started, as we said, many years ago, 20 years ago, or with the reciprocal model, where every participants in the industry could upload their translation memory files and earn credits to download other people's files. But that model didn't really work because there were different type of stakeholders, people who owned translation memories could earn credits, but they were not necessarily interested in training their own models. So then we developed the data marketplace to make it more of a trading platform where people could sell and buy data. As you've noticed, we took it offline last year because at the time there wasn't enough appetite. We've learned, we did continue to sell our own data to big tech companies, but the interest is shifting now towards different types of text and different types of data, longer form text, complete documents and email communications and slide decks and what have you. This is the precious data. So we're indeed planning now a launch of a new data platform where we focus on that kind of data. And all of the tools that we talk about for cleaning and optimization and quality evaluation and the use of large language models to improve the quality of the data are going to be crucial in this process. So yeah, we're excited about this opportunity, and we see this not just as a TAUS opportunity, but the opportunity for the whole industry to capitalize on many years of investments in building up language assets. But it does require kind of a new thinking and new processes, new tools to get that data ready. So more on this topic in a future webinar, probably in about a month or two. We will come back and provide a way more detail and launch some new web pages on TAU's website to make this accessible to everybody. Right. And that's the next thing, the events for 2025. We're going to be in Dublin in June. Exact dates 10, 11, and 12th of June with a post-event workshop as well. This event will be hosted by Google. Beautiful offices of Google in the center of Dublin and the tech area of Dublin. Yeah, we will be on the roof on the top floor with a nice roof terrace overlooking Dublin. Plenty of space there. And in October we'll be back in Salt Lake City. We like Salt Lake City. And we like the Little America Hotel there, trusted environment. So please come and put that on your calendar as well. But just what I wanted to say, this is the essence. You heard me talk about convergence of AI and language industries. And that's really what our industry is about, what our event is about, our conferences are about. We try to bring stakeholders from both these industries together now. To our events. So we get people from the AI labs and the big tech companies talk about their models and what they need from the language industry. And we get the language people to talk about how they use the models. And so
well,
please check out our...
Actually, sorry to interrupt. Go to the next slide because we also have it might be interesting for people to know what kind of topics they can expect at the TAUS conference. Of course, very much in line with the topics that we discussed today in the webinar, but yeah, we also put them here on the screen. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Yeah, great. Because you see, indeed, the things that we talk about in this webinar coming back here, like the data optimization and monetization, post-MT production automation. But we also get the globalization managers, AI managers, their titles are sometimes changing from big enterprises, talk about how they redesign their whole organization and their processes. We get the agencies, super agencies, the CEOs from super agencies and smaller, medium-sized agencies to join a discussion about how they see their companies transforming. Well, many of them are still kind of somewhere in the dark about where it's really going, but it's good to be together and try to figure this out together. We have a contest again, Annemai. Maybe you want to elaborate on that because it's always a good sparkling event at the conferences.
Yeah, indeed. So most of these topics will be discussed in a panel format. So we have a couple of leaders in these topics joining us on the stage for a discussion, conversation, presenting different perspectives. But the TAUS Massively Multilingual AI contest will be very high-paced or fast-paced, I think is what it's called. Short presentations from about 10 companies. Each of them gets 6 minutes on the stage. No Q&A, they just have 6 minutes, the presentation computer to present their innovation or idea hopefully with some ROI information in there as well. What is their problem and what is the industry's problem and what is their solution to it? So we are inviting all kinds of companies. They can be startups, but they can also be more of the established companies that have created some new kind of innovation or feature to their established tools that are very widely used. We welcome them all to submit their proposals and hopefully see them in Dublin or Salt Lake City. The nice thing here is also that the audience is in charge of voting for the winner. So you get the actual real users of the innovation or potential future users who are in charge of seeing which one has the best chance to win this special TAUS award.
Great. So we have a maximum size normally at the TAUS events of about 120 people, participants. So if you're interested to joining, please register soon. Good. Well, we're coming to the end of the presentation part of this webinar. So if you do have any questions, please post them. There's one question I can see here, and that's maybe one for Alison. Silvio Piccini is asking, has the industry looked at risk instead of counting errors before? Is there a history, or is this something completely new that will be tried now? Do you know? Is it something that...
No, I think people have looked at risk in the past, but the tendency within localization teams has been to focus right down onto individual words, individual spelling errors, counting mistakes. And what this new move is to take it more to a higher level and look at content types, look at audiences, look at what the end user of the translation is going to be doing it for. So you still need those operational quality assessment steps, but overall, it's looking more at the business outcomes and what is that translation or that language, that content in the first place? What is it intended to do?
Yeah.
Is it something that's going to help somebody manage their health? Or is it just a jokey post on social media that's going to be useful today and gone tomorrow?
Yeah.
Is it instructions, or is it highly emotional marketing content? Is an error going to affect your brand? Or is it something that it's a nuisance, but people can deal with it?
Right.
So it's taking it another step up. And I think it's been done anecdotally in the past.
Yeah.
Because people would always say, yes, we'll use machine translation for support content or user documentation, but we'll never use it for marketing.
Yeah.
That sort of level. But now we see it moving to a more formal assessment, together with content audits, examining your content, what is the audience, where is it going, what is it intended to do. So it's a more formal risk assessment process, I'd say.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Alison. Another question, Amir, for you. I think, what does the QE customization consist of exactly? Can you say a few more things, what kind of data we need and how much time it takes? And yeah.
So yeah, as we already talked about this, so the interesting part is that when you are training a translation model or QE model, the model itself is very similar. So the architecture is very similar. The things that makes the difference is the data. So what kind of data you are providing to fine tune it or train it. So when you are training a MT system, you are actually giving the model examples of translation from one language to another, and it learns how to do the translation. But when you are training QE models, you have to provide both good examples of translation and bad examples of translation and some labeling with it that can actually give the model a chance to learn when this kind of error occurs, how low the score should be or how high the score should be. And based on that, it learns different kind of error patterns. the amount of data decides how much it can learn for different language pairs, for different domains. So when we do customization, we ask to provide some examples of good, and if they also have bad examples, that as well. And then we curate that and add more data that we have. And that then it goes through another process of maybe human review and automatic labeling, and then human review of labeling and all of that. And once everything is ready, then we use that to do the customization. Usually, the process that we have takes 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how huge the data is that we are trying to use for training, or how many languages that is there for which we are customizing. But usually, the timeline that we have is between 2 to 4 weeks, and we can then customize a model for a particular client.
Thank you. Great. And Alison, Silvio said, thank you, love it, for your previous answer. But there's another question, maybe more for you also. Can you speak a bit more about the topic of synthetic data to expand the amount of available training content? Is that something you come across a lot, Alison? Are people looking at using synthetic data?
Okay, this is completely outside of my comfort zone.
Okay, well, yeah.
This would be a question for one of my analyst colleagues. That would be a question for Al, and he's talked about synthetic data, but
yeah,
it's really not my area. I'm sorry.
No problem. Then I'll turn the question to Amir, because we do use synthetic data as well, exactly in the example that you just talked about, to find the negative examples of quality. But maybe you want to elaborate a little bit on that, Amir.
Yeah, so it's basically a tricky subject, because if you say that you can just use a model that can generate a lot of data, let's say use an LLM that can generate a lot of data, can you trust that data? Can you trust that to fine tune or train another model? Because if this model is making mistakes, then the data will be erroneous, and then you transfer that kind of errors to the other model that you are training. So when you are generating synthetic data, it is very important to make it very controlled. And then humans in the loop are very important, because if you're generating something, then someone has to review that and make sure that everything is good. So the approach that we usually follow, we have a lot of controlled semi-automatic systems with which we generate data. And then what to generate is also very important. So for example, if you say I can generate examples of translation, good quality, that is not going to work, because then you really need to know whether everything that you are generating is good or bad. So it's very important to define your strategy, define the kind of algorithm that you're using to generate synthetic data, make sure that it's very controlled with a lot of different rules. And then in the end, the humans are there to verify, and only then you can use it.
Great, thank you. And then maybe that will be the last question, a bit of a naive question, but if you have models that can find the errors in machine translation output, why can you not train the machine translation model in the first place to not make those errors? What would you say to that sort of broader question?
So as I mentioned earlier as well, that the kind of data that you are using to train, that is for a specific purpose. So for MT training, you have a lot of data available, because there is a lot of translations available. So you can just crawl the web and you can see that, okay, this is a translation of this page, so I can use that. But there is not enough data available for comparing bad translation and good translation, and then labeling it. So to train a quality estimation model is a little bit more difficult, because then you have to generate the right data in the right amount, right size, and then based on that you can train. So that's why this is a technology where there is a lack of data, and to fine tune it, you really have to work hard to generate the kind of data that is needed, and then you can fine tune it. The other option is, why can't we use LLMs directly to do all these kind of things? So as Alison already mentioned, that the data that is also available for LLM is limited. So for example, for English, it can work really good, but for some other languages, it might not be that good. And of course, LLMs are improving day by day, but there is still a problem of hallucination. So it can give you an output that looks very confident. The LLM will, very nicely put it in words, but when you read it, it will be completely rubbish. So it will be talking about very wrong things, and it will be generating a lot of errors in the context. So it's very important to make sure that whatever technology you are using is for a specific purpose. Your domain is well defined, and then you are using it with the understanding of risk that are coming with that. So if you are using LLM for something, you have to understand the risks that are associated with that. If you are using quality estimation, you need to understand the risks that are coming with that. And you are just optimizing how much risk you can take, and based on that, how much you can save or speed up the process. So that's always there.
Great. So there is always a distinctive role for quality estimation models in our ecosystem. All right, well, we've come to the end. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and thank you, Alison, for joining us and sharing your expert views. We're looking forward to the reports coming out or that have already been published on this topic. So in summary for everybody here, if you're looking to add quality estimation and automatic post editing to your process, please contact us. This is one of our focus areas. We think that will make a big difference to our industry, to your processes in 2025. And stay tuned for the TAUS program on data for AI, data optimization. We'll have another webinar to talk more in depth about that in a couple of months, probably. And we hope to see you at the TAUS events. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful 2025. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.